Hey guys, welcome to today's reading. This one is all about how you should handle this difficult situation. So if you're going through something a little tricky in your life, a little trying, maybe you're going through a rough patch or some awful situation that you're having to deal with, this is a great one to get some guidance about how Spirit wants you to handle it, how Spirit wants you to approach it, and how you can best solve it. So today we have a selection of different cards for you to choose from. So if you're new to this channel, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. Basically, you're going to see which of these cards is sticking out to you, calling your name, drawing your attention in towards it. And then as soon as you make up your mind, just scroll down to the timestamps in the comments and the description and jump right into your pile. And if you like how I read tarot, then be sure to head to my Patreon where I post all my additional readings. There are over 100 exclusive readings you'll only find on Patreon, and then you also get early and ad-free access to all my YouTube videos, so they always get posted over there way early. I just posted a reading all about your next relationship, as well as one about when you're going to be achieving your dreams and what that is going to look like for you. But there is so much content to choose from over on Patreon, and then you get, like I said, to be the first to watch my YouTube videos. They always get posted over there way in advance. So if that sounds good to you, then head to the link underneath the timestamps in the comments and the description and join me on Patreon. Also, if you're interested in booking a private session with me, you can do that at my website, briarrosetarot.com. Whether you're looking for a quick half-hour reading, a full hour-length reading, whether you want it to be focused on tarot, astrology, channeling, mediumship, a combination, whether you would like it to be pre-recorded or live, you get to really customize your time with me, so it's the perfect session for you. If that sounds good, then head on over to my website, briarrosetarot.com, and book a time slot with me. So that's about all I have to say, guys. Now, if you need more time to decide, you can totally feel free to rewind, pause, and take as much time as you need, but we're going to go ahead and jump into pile one. Hey pile one, welcome to your reading. So this is the card you guys got, Magician's Sword, Confidence in Your Magic. So this is a really positive card, but before I start talking about, wow, this is a great sign, because it is, and I did a random shuffle of the cards, so I didn't pick this one. I literally did a shuffle and it came out, but I do want to get into the tarot first, just because I know if you're watching this reading, you're probably in deep into some situation and you want some genuinely honest advice. So I don't want to like have you celebrating and then pull a bunch of tarot and it's negative. So let's see what the tarot says for pile one. I wanted to do a live shuffle. How should pile one handle this situation? How should pile one handle this situation? So we got the Chariot, we got the Wheel of Fortune, and we got the Five of Pentacles. So the Wheel of Fortune also bodes really well. The Five of Pentacles, not so much. With the Chariot, there could be that message that you need to take some kind of action. Like you need to do something about it, you know? You need to pursue things. You need to take action. So this may not be the kind of situation where you're supposed to just sit back, relax, and wait for Spirit to handle it, you know? This could be a situation that requires you to really address things, really move forward strongly, and to take initiative, you know, take your power back. It's kind of like this Magician's Sword, confidence in your magic. It's like, first of all, I feel like maybe Spirit just wants me to remind you how powerful you guys are, that you guys are so capable, that you guys can move mountains. You guys are amazing. So in a way, it's almost like, why are you scared of this situation? Why are you even letting it get to you? Why are you letting it stress you out? Why are you letting it get under your skin? Because trust me, you have handled every other stress in your life and you are going to handle this as well. And Spirit is actually showing me, and I mentioned this before, that I have something in my calendar that whenever I enter it, it autofills, you know, like the first couple letters are exactly the same as something I was doing in college. I think some philosophy paper, because it's like the name of some guy and I can't remember. I have no idea who the guy is. So I assume it's some obscure philosopher because I majored in philosophy, but I really don't know. But whatever it was very important. And there was 3 exclamation points and it's in all caps and it was like paper due. And I was just thinking, whenever I see that, I think, wow, I was so stressed out when I wrote that. Whenever I wrote that, clearly it was like top of my mind, because I'm not someone that usually puts things in all caps on my calendar or puts a bunch of exclamation marks. So whatever this was, it was clearly very important. And it's so funny because now I don't even know the guy's name. I can't even remember what this was about, right? But at that time, it was so important to me. It was at the forefront of my mind. And probably it seemed in some ways like an insurmountable challenge, like, oh my God, everything's writing on this paper. And now I'm like, what paper? What was that? And I feel like Spirit's putting that in my mind to tell you guys that message as well, that maybe one day you'll look back on this and be like, oh yeah, whatever, you know, it will be no big deal to you. So there could be that message of success and that, listen, you can handle this. You've handled everything. It's not to say to just sit back and allow it to happen, but almost like sometimes we can get paralyzed by feeling like, I can't do this. I can't handle it. This is like so stressful to me and I'm out of my depth and like, I'm going to screw this up. And that's when we can really go into a spiral. And I feel like Spirit is saying like, you've got this. You've handled so much worse. You've handled many scarier things. And like one day you're going to look back and this is going to be a little blip on your radar. You're going to be like, oh my God, that's funny that was something that I was freaking out about because now it seems so small in comparison. So I do feel like there is a positive message coming out with the Wheel of Fortune, the Magician's Sword card, but it's also like, hey, don't just chill and rest and just expect things to solve themselves. This situation, it may even be easier for you to reconcile it. I feel like you may have more options than you realize. Like it may not be as sometimes we can get into that really limited mindset, really limited thinking where we're feeling like, oh my gosh, there's only one option, or I'm stuck, or I don't know what to do. I can't get out of it. And I feel like the message I'm getting from Spirit is like, you actually do have a lot of options and you're very capable of handling whatever this is, even if it seems really insurmountable, even if you're feeling really stressed out about it, nervous, whatever, you have got this. And it's almost like that message to just take a breath, relax, calm down a little, and then go ahead and take some action and do whatever you have to do. Let's get into some more cards though. Pile number one. How should pile number one handle this situation, Spirit? Okay, so we got the Magician. Wow, that's very positive. We got the Magician's Sword. We got Magician twice. So wow, Spirit again reminding you of how powerful you are. The Emperor and the Strength card. So yeah, I feel like this reading, it's almost like a gas you up type of reading because there's so many positive cards reminding you how powerful you are. First of all, you actually got 5 of the 6 cards are major arcana cards. And then they're really powerful ones at that. The Magician, the Emperor, the Strength card, the Chariot, the Wheel of Fortune. They're all power cards and they're all coming in with like a very strong force of will. You know, they know what they want and they're not going to be pushed around. They're not going to let someone tell them what to do. So I also feel like this message could be about not being scared. Like sometimes when we're in a situation and it feels really overwhelming, it's easy to get scared, or it's easy to almost like go into like appeasing someone or freeze mode, like, oh my God, I'm stuck, so let me be extra nice, or let me just do what they're asking me because, oh, and that's, I feel like not what Spirit wants you to do. I actually feel like Spirit wants you to kind of fight and stand strong. It's kind of like when I worked in law, in family law, we used to joke and say that we get paid to send people letters. Because the funny thing is, so much of the time, someone will just get a legal letter and they panic, they freak out. You know, all they have to do is open that, like even just see the letter, the envelope coming from a law office, and immediately they're starting to panic. Immediately they're starting to sweat. Immediately they're thinking, oh my gosh, like this is a lawsuit. I really don't want a lawsuit. So all you have to do is say like, hey, you know, we're upset with blah, blah behavior. We order you to cease and desist, or whatever legal language you have to put it into legal language. But basically, if you do that and you make it sound really professional, like you may not have any intention of suing that person. You may not have any intention of pursuing it, but just that letter is enough to make people freak out, panic, like completely change their behavior, do a 180 because they're just so nervous about a lawsuit. And half the time, the person who asked us to send the letter, they don't even want to follow through on it. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean is sometimes when we're in a difficult situation, it becomes this like panic, this freak out, and it really doesn't actually serve us. It actually keeps us in, you know,
in the powerless position, and then we are beholden to whatever anyone else wants. So part of this is like really maybe even checking in with yourself, like, what do I want out of this situation? How am I willing to handle it? What are my options? And maybe even taking a very firm stance, like digging in your heels, not rolling over and trying to give them what they want, but maybe standing 10 toes down and being very tough and very strong, because the Emperor, of course, is ruled by Aries and not afraid of a challenge, not afraid of a fight. So I feel like this message could also be like, if you're having to deal with someone that they're trying to push you around or pressure you, don't be afraid to fight back, and don't be afraid to really listen to what you want and be firm about that. You know, don't be trying to make this person happy to your own detriment. Don't be trying to go along with them, because a lot of times that doesn't work anyway. Someone gets what they want from you and then they want more, or they still aren't satisfied or whatever. So we think we're just going to satisfy them, and it doesn't even work in the first place, you know? So I feel like this message for you is about really standing in your own authority, really listening to your inner voice and not being afraid to stand up. You know what's also coming to my mind, and it's funny because the Emperor, like I said, is ruled by Aries, which is ruled by Mars in astrology. And I always mention that I had this summer where Mars was transiting over my ascendant, and it was like stuck on my ascendant because it was, it was going in and out of retrograde, and it was just there for so long. And I have a long first house. So it was just there, like transiting through my first house. And it was so crazy of a summer because I always would have all these Mars type events. People would just meet me, see me, and like immediately take a disliking to me, I felt. Or if there was anyone who was having a rough day, they would like direct that energy towards me. Or if there was anyone who was feeling rude or nasty, they would be like aligned towards me. And I found that summer, it was like I could barely go into a coffee shop and like order a coffee without someone like being nasty to me, hostile to me, whatever. And it was really difficult. And I was like, why is this happening? Like, why am I getting the worst service of my life? Why is like random strangers having beef with me? I don't get this. But honestly, that summer was so helpful. And by the time it finally left my first house, after those prolonged months of that lesson, I felt so much stronger. And like now, I feel like I've taken those lessons where if I get bad customer service, now I know how to handle it. Or if someone's rude to me, it doesn't really affect me as much because it's like I had that summer where I was facing it all the time. And it was difficult and it was tough, but also it's such a valuable lesson to learn how to handle conflict. And it's also such a valuable lesson to learn how to stand up for yourself. I think when Mars was first transiting in my first house, I kept thinking like, well, I'm just going to be extra nice to everyone. Well, I'm just going to, I'm just going to be extra smiley then. And it like didn't work. And that's the thing is sometimes we think the night, like, oh, I'm just going to give in. I'm just going to be nice. I'm just going to give this person what they want. And a lot of times that doesn't work. Actually, a lot of times, especially dysfunctional people, like they're not going to respect your kindness. And a lot of times you're going to have to stand up for them, to them. You're going to have to like show them that you're willing to have conflict. That like, okay, if you want to fight me, then we'll fight. Then that's what's going to happen, I guess. And I feel like that's the vibe for you is I don't think Spirit wants you to go into this. I'm not saying you should try to start unnecessary conflict or anything, but I do feel like Spirit is saying, hey, press back, push back against this, and don't let this person push you around. And, you also have your own inner dignity. You don't necessarily have to settle, have to do what this person wants, have to appease them. You can, fight back just for your own sake, just for your own desires of like, I don't think that's fair, so I'm not going to do it. So yeah, I feel like this message is really about finding your own power. And some of you guys, I'm not going to lie, with the Five of Pentacles, you may have to pay something. There may be a hit to your finances in some way. That could be something. The Five of Pentacles can also represent us being ostracized from a group and kind of having to go it alone. So having to leave a group behind or feel like you're out on your own. But that's really the only negative card you guys got. So I feel like overall, this is going to be a success. And I feel like the best way for you to handle it is to have have that self-confidence. Also, Spirit is reminding you that like your thoughts become things, your thoughts become your reality. So the more you can focus on the positive outcome, the more you can focus on the good, the more you can focus on, I know I'm going to win. I know I'm going to succeed at this. And I know that this is not going to take me out. Like I said, it's so funny because so many astrologers are, very negative about like Saturn transits, Mars transits, any of the malefic transits. And I got to say, I feel like I have learned the most from the malefic transits, from the Mars transits, from the Saturn transits, Pluto. I feel like those transits are the ones that really kick your butt, but in a really good way. And afterwards, you're so much stronger. So there's also that message that, kind of like sometimes when we're going through something, we can really fight it. We can really be in that energy of like, oh my God, why is this happening to me? This is so upsetting. This is so unfair. But if we actually take it and reposition it in our mind as an opportunity for growth, as an opportunity to alchemize ourselves and get stronger and get better and refine ourselves, then that's when, that becomes a beautiful thing in our life. It doesn't have to be negative. Some of it is our reaction to that. So yeah, I feel like overall, this is honestly very positive, and there is just that message to make sure you're standing up for yourself and you're advocating for yourself, and you are not letting anyone else push you around. Let me get into these cards for pile number 1. How should pile 1 handle this difficult situation? Feast of Plenty, choices and their consequences. Woo, okay, another really positive card. So this could maybe be a really positive outcome. We also got Lost in Space, needing direction. So with Lost in Space, okay, so I don't want to like jinx it, but I do feel like probably luck is on your side. You got 2 Wheel of Fortune cards, so that is super, super positive. Oh, this is off the deck. Yeah, and I feel like for you guys as well, Feast of Plenty, like this is just really positive. This is really boding well. With Lost in Space, there could be that message of needing to get like a professional opinion, or needing to get help from someone else, needing to see someone who like knows what they're talking about and is an expert in this field. So don't be afraid to seek out a professional opinion or a second opinion or anything, because I do feel like, again, I feel like you're going to have to come into this situation and be strong about it. This is not a situation in which you're supposed to just sit back, relax, completely lean into it, and, just don't do anything and do nothing. I do think you're supposed to take action, but I think that action is going to be very aligned. And the calmer you can stay, the more positive you can be, the more calm you can be, the better the action will be. So if you have to see someone who's a professional and they know what they're talking about, and you have to pay someone to get their advice or whatever, I would say go ahead and do that, because that person could really help you to move in the right direction and to take that aligned action. But I do feel like overall, there's just so many positive cards coming out. So yeah, honestly, if I pulled this pile, I would feel a lot more relieved. I would be like, okay, whew, so it's not going to be that bad. Okay, so I don't have to be stressing as much. I don't have to be freaking out, because there's a lot of positivity. And in the end, you guys may have a lot of success from this. So yeah, I would not worry too much now about this situation. Let's get into these cards. How should pile number 1 handle this difficult situation? How should pile 1 handle this difficult situation, Spirit? We got Prophets and Ancient Seers, letting go of urgency, surrender, freedom from time constraints, and Archangel Zadkiel, self-acceptance, compassion, forgiveness. So it could also be that process of like just being gentler on yourself. If you've been beating yourself up like, oh, how did I get myself into this? Or I really screwed everything up, or anything negative. I feel like Spirit doesn't want you to be talking to yourself that way. Spirit really wants you to have that positive mindset about things, and to kind of go easy on yourself as well, and not to be negative, not to be too harsh. Also with the letting go of urgency card, again, I feel like so much of the time, the suffering that happens for us in any given situation is our resistance to it. Like when I was going through the Mars transit, I kept being like, why is this happening? Why are people so mean to me? This is so unfair. And I was really in my feelings about it. I was really upset about how I felt like it was just happening all the time. And what I had to realize was this is, part of my soul journey. This is a gift. This is teaching me. And by the end, I was actually really grateful because I feel like now, whenever those situations happen, someone's rude to me, someone's nasty to me, I just can handle it a lot better. It's kind of like you go through a really difficult lesson in school, a really difficult class, and the teacher is super harsh and super mean. But by the time you leave that class, you know that subject like the back of your hand, and you are so much more equipped to study that subject or to know that subject than with that teacher who was super easy and let you like goof off and watch movies during class. I mentioned that before. I've traveled through Italy a bunch and I love Italy, and I actually studied Italian in high school, and I wish I had studied it harder. I had like the nice teacher, and that's one of the reasons why I took the class, because everyone was like, oh, she's super nice and she's really easy and she doesn't really make you study that hard. And I was like, perfect, because I'm not good at languages. And so now I go to Italy and like I can barely get by. I can maybe speak a little conversational Italian, but not much. And it's so frustrating because I'm like, oh, I studied this thing for 3 years. Like, I should know more Italian, right? I should have taken this seriously. But because I had the super easy teacher and she just spent the whole class chatting and joking with us, like, I don't think anyone from that class really became fluent in Italian. And that's the thing, is like at the time you may be like, great, this is so awesome, I can slack off. But it's really with those teachers that may be mean, maybe harsh, maybe really pushing you, that you learn, grow, and change. So take this as well as, what can I learn from this situation? Maybe even changing your opinion of it and not fighting it, not feeling like, oh my God, it has to look a certain way, or I'm so upset about the situation, and instead just like welcoming it in. I've also mentioned this before, but like, it's crazy how many, like, I remember I think I read Donald Trump's biography way back in the day. And he was like $200 million in debt at one point or something. So technically, he was like very, very broke. And I think I remember this story. I read it when I was like 12, like, yeah, I was pretty young. But he was walking with his daughter through, like, into their apartment building, the Trump Tower, and he pointed to a homeless man on the street and told his daughter, that homeless guy, he actually has more money than me, because he was $200 million in debt. And the homeless guy may have had like $3 to his name, but that's better than negative 200 million. And his daughter said that comment really stuck with her. And I was talking about this with someone else about, like, there are so many billionaires though who will like declare bankruptcy whenever they want to, who will like be super in debt, who will like use that and play games with like the tax system. Meanwhile, like, everyone who is all trying to be nice, trying to do things the right way will, like, of course, pay on time and still get audited, still get in trouble. Or they'll be like, oh my God, I'm $500 in debt and I'm panicking. And sometimes success comes when you're willing to exist in that really uncomfortable place. When you're willing to be like, sure, I'm going to play this game. I'm going to go into the meeting. I'm going to play hardball with this person. I'm going to make them not like me. I'm going to like stick it to them. And in that moment, there's going to be tension, but in the end, I'm going to persevere. And if you are willing to embrace that, if you're willing to be like, sure, I'm going to be 200 million in debt, or I'm going to be, or I'm going to go into this like client meeting and I'm going to really tell them what's up and I'm going to be harsh with them. A lot of those things, or the boardroom, or I'm going to fire this person, like a lot of those things, if you want to have success, you have to be willing to exist in that place of discomfort. You have to be willing to withstand the pressure and the stress and the sweat and the hardship of that. And only through passing through that do you get to that success. So I feel like that's another thing that's happening with you is, maybe you are being alchemized to go to the next level by being put through this. Maybe some of you guys are supposed to grow and change, and this is a part of that process. This is refining you. This is actually making you better and stronger and more capable of success than you were before. So just understanding that, there is so much to be gained from these negative situations. Once we can get out of that mode of like having a pity party, being like, oh, I wish it was different, this is so unfair, and just like accepting and embracing the lessons, that's when we really can alchemize. That's when we really can transform the situation. Once we're like, hey, this is fun for me. I love it. I love to go through this pressure. I love to go through this stress. It's like you see someone who's really fit, really in shape, they have really big muscles. They love that burn when they go to the gym. They want to feel their muscles. They want to do that highest level on like the Stairmaster, or to take those really heavy weights. They want that burn. They want that feeling. And I feel like that's the thing. Whenever you want success in any arena, you just have to embrace the hardship. And if that's what you're going through now, just don't be afraid, because again, there's so much positive energy. And I feel like in a way you're going through this to just learn, grow, get better, get stronger. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. Let me get some message cards for you, pile number 1. What messages do we have for pile 1 about their situation and what they should do with their situation, Spirit? So we got grace and gratitude. Through gratitude, joy expands. Okay. This one is fellow travelers. Support is all around you. Answering the call. The time is now. And let me get one more card for you, pile 1. Journey by moonlight. Believe in magic. So Spirit really wants you to trust this process, to believe that it can all work out for you, and to not get stuck in like a mental thought process, a negative mental thought process, not to panic or freak out. You are being supported. You may have Archangel Zadkiel around you. And I feel like your mindset is going to be everything. So keeping grateful, keeping your eyes on the prize, maybe waking up every morning and thinking of where you want to go, how you want this situation to be handled, how you want it to be resolved. And then again, trusting that process, trusting that like it may not resolve overnight, but long term, it will absolutely work out in your favor. And I feel like you guys are very powerful manifestors. You're very powerful with your thoughts and your emotions. So keeping them focused and fixed on something positive, not negative, not allowing yourself to go into a spiral, to go into a negative thought process. Another thing about it is like life can change on a dime. You never know what could change from day to day, month to month, year to year. Your whole life can do a 180 turnaround. So I feel like for you guys, there's a very positive outcome being indicated here. And yes, you are going to have to take action. And yes, I feel like Spirit doesn't want you to just sit back, rest, and relax and just chill. We even got that answering the call. The time is now. So like, do something with this, handle it. Don't just ignore it. But I do think ultimately in the end, there's so much success indicated here. And if you take action, if you're powerful, if you're strong, if you do stand 10 toes down, stand by yourself and go after what you want, I do feel like you can resolve this situation so in your favor. Listen to your own inner authority. Listen to your own inner voice. Trust yourself. Trust your feelings. What you're asking for or wanting is not unreasonable. And I feel like you have the potential to really change the situation and really have it work out incredible for you guys. So yeah, this is ultimately a super positive message. Pile 1. I really hope that resonated, guys. If it did, please leave this reading a thumbs up, hit the like button, subscribe, drop a comment. That really helps the channel, and I always love to hear what you think of my readings. Also, if you would like to book a private session with me, you can do that at my website, briarrosetarot.com. Whether you're looking for a quick half-hour reading or a long hour-long reading, whether you want it to be focused on mediumship, tarot, astrology, channeling, a combination, whether you would like it to be pre-recorded or live, you can customize your session with me and make it the perfect session for you. So if that sounds good and you want to book a slot with me, head to my website, briarrosetarot.com. Also, if you're looking for additional readings from me, you can get that at my website, or excuse me, you can get that on my Patreon. And the link for that is underneath the timestamps in the comments in the description. There are over 100 exclusive readings you'll only find on Patreon, and you also get early and ad-free access to all my YouTube videos. They always get posted over there way early. So if that sounds good to you and you would like to see more of my readings, then head to my Patreon. Like I said, there's so much content to choose from, and the link for that is underneath the timestamps in the comments and the description. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I am sending you so much love and light, and I will see you again very, very soon with another reading. Take care, guys. Bye. Hey, Pile 2, welcome to your reading. So you guys got deep quiet, meditation, and stillness. So maybe the way to handle this situation, it may be calling for you not to like overreact, not to get upset, and maybe just relax into it. Sometimes there's a situation that will go away, handle itself. You know, it will kind of drift off if you don't rush into action. Sometimes we feel like we have to take action, we have to do something about it. This may be spirit calling for you to almost like relax into the situation, stop fighting it, stop pushing against it. And then you may be amazed at how easily this problem resolves itself, that it takes care of itself. But let me pull some more tarot and see what else spirit is saying about this situation and how you should handle it. So how should pile number 2 handle this difficult situation, Spirit? How should pile number 2 handle this difficult situation? Okay. So we have the Justice card, the 9 of Pentacles, and the 7 of Wands. Let's see if we can get some more tarot for you. Pile number 2. How should pile 2 handle this difficult situation? So there's definitely a kind of spiritual component in this. We got a lot of swords cards. We got the 9 of Swords, the 5 of Swords, the King of Swords, and then the Hermit card. So again, when we see so much spiritual energy, there can be that message that this is not a situation for you to rush into action, but maybe even a situation for you to check your own responses. Like sometimes when you're triggered by something or upset by something, it's almost like there's an internal reaction. With the 9 of Swords, it can show that you're more leaning into anxiety, giving this situation more mental or thought power than it deserves. And actually, you may check yourself and say like, maybe I've been handling this situation weird. And I'm not trying to blame anyone. I know sometimes, of course, situations are out of your control. But I found there's certain things that like have really bothered me. And if I sometimes, of course, there's some things that are just straight up wrong, awful, whatever. But sometimes that small situation that I'm really bothered about and I keep overthinking, I keep worrying about it, I keep stressing about it, there may be something there that's triggering me from like childhood or triggering me from some other time in my life. And when I look into it, it's like, oh, okay, maybe I'm misinterpreting this, or maybe I'm expecting it to mean something that it doesn't. Like, you know, for example, people that get really stressed out because they don't get a text back. That may be someone that, you know, didn't really feel a lot of like love from their parents, or maybe their parents were super attentive and their parent was always there for them all the time. So when someone doesn't respond really quick, they feel like, oh my gosh, this person must hate me, because that's not what they're used to. And a lot of it is just worth checking, like, what are my own reactions here, and how much of my mental energy am I giving to this situation? And if you are giving too much mental energy, then maybe pulling that back and not allowing your mind to, you know, spiral out about something. So I don't mean to blame you guys. I'm just saying sometimes it's actually really empowering to realize, like, you know what, I have been putting way too much thought and effort into this, and this situation may not be as bad as I think, or it may be bad, but also the way to alchemize it may just be to relax into it, kind of like stop fighting the situation and just allow karma to happen. We do have the Justice card coming out. So there could be an element of karma in this situation as well, where, you know, if a karmic energy is at play and there's supposed to be karma that plays out, then, you know, all you have to do is sit back, relax, and let that happen. And I do feel like with the 9 of Pentacles being the second card, that is a very relaxed energy. That's a very like luxurious, I'm just chilling, I'm just sitting around and waiting kind of type of energy. So I don't feel like spirit is saying like, you need to do something about this. You need to take action. You need to do things. I also feel like spirit could be with so many swords calling on you to really be logical about the situation. We can see we don't even have one single cup. So there's not a lot of emotion at play here. So again, this could be your call to like take your emotions out of it. Again, sometimes we really put emotions into situations. Like for example, this is anecdotal, but like since, you know, traveling abroad and stuff, a lot of my expectations of like customer service were based on like what customer service is like in the US. And in the US, you know, it's a pretty friendly, outgoing culture where there's a lot of small talk. So most of the time, you know, if you go to like get, you know, your stuff taken, checked out at a grocery store, the person's going to say to you something like, "Hi, how are you?" And like, "Oh, I like your t-shirt," or something, you know, and they may be like chatting with you, making small talk with you. And if you are traveling abroad, a lot of times that's something you can't expect. You can't expect them to chat with you or talk to you. And it may feel at times at first like, oh my gosh, this person is being so rude to me. Or if you're used to everyone smiling at you, if you're used to everyone like going out of their way to talk to you, then someone who's just minding their own business and they're just like not really making eye contact can feel like, oh my gosh, do they hate me? And I've had to realize that a lot of that was my cultural conditioning, and like not everyone has the same culture, right? So not everyone is going to approach the same way. And that doesn't mean that the checkout person like hates me or they don't like me or they have a problem with me. A lot of it is just cultural stuff, cultural differences. And that's what's coming to my mind. It may not be that, but you know, it would be like so exhausting for me if I was to get like really upset if I was in France and the person just checked me out and didn't chat with me, and I expected them to give me American customer service where they're like super friendly and they're talking to you and they're asking about your day and all this stuff. Like that's just not going to happen. So why would I allow my emotions to be ruined because I go into a store in France and they're just like, okay, here's your stuff and goodbye. You know what I mean? And so some of it is like taking back your power and realizing I've been giving too much energy to this situation. Maybe I've also been expecting someone to act differently. And it's also worth remembering that everyone has their cultural conditioning. Like there's things you can do as an American that are considered really rude in other countries, right? And that's not your intention. You're not trying to do that. So a lot of it is like stop expecting something, you know, stop expecting someone to ask a certain way, to act a certain way, and to just accept them for what they are and be like, okay, whatever. And even if they're trying to be rude, even if they are like they low-key secretly hate you, also who cares? Because why would you let it bother you? You know what I mean? So your power comes when you stop allowing other people to control you, other people's reactions to get under your skin, other people to you know, feel like they can dictate your mood, because they can sense that energy as well. Like someone who's looking for a reaction, someone who is looking to be rude, or they don't like you, or they're jealous, or they're being a hater, whatever, they would love nothing more than to ruin your day, get under your skin. And that's why it's such a power move to just be like, okay, so you don't like me anyway, I don't care, and keep it moving, you know? So, and also keeping it moving just mentally, like when we are focusing on ourselves, when we are aware of the power of our thoughts and how powerful of manifestors we are, and that our thoughts create reality, we will not waste our thoughts on like some jerk of a guy who wants to be nasty to us, or some annoying coworker, or someone who is an annoying neighbor. It's like, you know, let them have their dysfunction. Whatever will happen to them will happen, and they will have their karma play out. I promise you that. Even sometimes, like, Dolores Cannon talks about stories in her books of people who incarnate for living the same life lesson over thousands of years. So I feel like that would be the worst karma, living like hundreds of different lifetimes or whatever, dozens of different lifetimes. And every time it's the same freaking lesson. Like I can't even imagine how boring that would be. And even then, they may not feel like they've gotten bad karma because technically it wasn't bad enough to make them learn, right? But that's almost like the worst karma of all, having to like repeat that over and over and over. So always know that the karma will play out. The karma will happen to that person at some point. And so it's almost like we don't need to stress. We don't need to worry. We don't need to even give that our energy. And also, like, the best revenge, of course, is also finding happiness. With the Five of Swords, I'm not gonna lie, that can sometimes indicate a loss or a pointless like fight to get in, like, like a road rage fight that, like, there's not going to be a positive outcome. There's going to be no, like, okay, this was awesome, I got in a road rage fight. Even if you win, you're probably not going to win, and you're probably not going to feel like you won. So it's kind of like that message to just stay away from that conflict and to avoid that kind of a thing, And I feel like there's an energy here of maybe someone who wants to engage you in a fight, maybe someone that like feeds off conflict. They're maybe used to conflict and they enjoy it. And that's the thing is, you never know what someone else is going through or how low of a point they may be in their life. You might be in a great time in your life. You're feeling really happy. You're feeling really joyful. And this person is so bitter, hateful, and angry because they're so miserable. And that's why it's going to be really important to watch your energy and not allow it to get taken away by someone that doesn't even have any good intentions for you. So yeah, I feel like this energy is about not necessarily getting involved in some conflict and maybe kind of sticking away from that and just working on yourself, focusing on your lane, what you can control, and all of that. Let me get into some more cards for you, pile number 2. So how should pile 2 handle this difficult situation, Spirit? How should pile 2 handle this difficult situation? So we got joyful muse, inspiration. Drifter, experiencing life as it comes. Dragon's Hoard, protecting the future. And this one is Feast of Plenty, choices and their consequences. Wow. So yeah, I feel like, the Drifter card is really sticking out to me for you guys. And what's coming to my mind is this quote I heard from, I think it's Ina Garten's husband. She was on some podcast and she was saying that his favorite quote is something along the lines of, you never know whether it's a good break or a bad break until later. And I think that's so true. Like, there are certain things that have happened to me in life that maybe I thought were objectively good. Like, this is amazing. This is fantastic. And then I look back now and I'm like, that was not, like, I wish I never met that person. Or I don't even know. Maybe I shouldn't have gone to that thing, and maybe I was so excited for it at the time. And then there's things that have happened that I'm like, this is the worst thing ever. I'm so upset. I wanted this to happen. And then it ends up being the best blessing that exposes me to so many things and creates a domino effect. And that's my point, is like, it's almost like you can't judge your journey based on your immediate surroundings. You know what I mean? Like, imagine, and I made this metaphor before, but like when you're driving anywhere, you're going to pass through some negative areas. Like, I'm thinking of the drive from the East Coast in the US to LA, which I made that road trip a few times. And I just think it's so funny because that journey, it's so varied because you go through so many parts of the US, and parts of it are really, really boring or kind of like desolate. Like, there's nothing for a while once you get into the desert part, and you're just driving for miles and maybe there's no gas station for miles, and it can be really, really scary. Or you're driving through a really boring flat part and there's really nothing to see. It's not that interesting. And it would be absolutely ridiculous if you were to get into your feelings and start getting really upset because you're like, all I'm surrounded by is grassland and I'm in the middle of Kansas or wherever, and this is so boring, and so this sucks, and so I know I'm on the wrong path. You can see from that map that like you're heading somewhere else, and this is just the part you have to pass through, right? Like, this is not a big deal. It's not even really worth thinking about because you know that this is not where you're going to end up. But so many of us will get really upset about small events in life, a blip, something that's really seemingly negative. But it's like, keeping in mind, we're just passing through. You know what I mean? We don't have to stay there. We don't have to be there for the rest of our lives. So I feel like there's that message for you of almost like keeping your eyes on the prize and being open. Like, maybe this event is happening in your life for a reason. Maybe there's something you're supposed to learn from it, something you're supposed to take away. Maybe there is some alchemizing quality, refining quality. Like, keeping in mind things like the Judgment card in tarot, that shows something that needs to be kind of burnt down first, and then it gets reborn. It needs to be destroyed, and then it comes back so much better and stronger in the end. And there is that quality, like there's certain transits in astrology that are really negative, but will make you so much better, so much stronger. Like Pluto, for example, is a planet that everything it touches, it wants to change, it wants to destroy, it wants to refine. But on the other side of that, it's going to be so much better. And I feel like for you, you just need to understand that whatever is happening for you right now, it's not necessarily even something that you needed to like spring into action and handle, and you've got to do something about this. You can just accept that this is where you are at this position in your life, and on the other side, once you're out of this, you're probably going to be so glad for that. You know, it's like you finish that road trip and maybe you're pretty sick of driving for the last 3, 4, 5 days, depending on how many breaks you take. But you're gonna probably have really fond memories of like that cute little souvenir shop that you stopped at in New Mexico, or the really delicious food you had in Texas, or whatever. And even though you had some negative times, those will fade in the rear view. And that's the same thing for life. So even though this situation may seem really negative right now, this can be your call to just focus on yourself, focus on the positive with this joyful muse inspiration card, to make sure you are seeking out your own joy, you're seeking out your own happiness, and you're not really letting anything get under your skin. So maybe even distracting yourself with things that bring you a lot of fulfillment, whether that's a creative hobby, whether that's spending time with loved ones or going out or having fun, or just reading a book, you know, or just watching your favorite movie. If there's something you can do to uplift your mood and put yourself into more of a positive place, I feel like that's going to do a lot more good than sitting around in that 9 of Swords energy and ruminating and worrying and fixating and wondering what's going to happen. I feel like you are protected in this. We did get some positive cards: Feast of Plenty, Dragon's Hoard, and the 9 of Pentacles. So things very well could turn out totally in your favor. And you could be, like I said, ultimately at the end of this, really glad you went through it. So yeah, I would not be stressing. I would not be worrying. I would be keeping my eyes focused on the destination and the prize. And yeah, just not, you know, not allowing myself to get into any negative spiral, but really focusing on my energy and how can I alchemize and raise up my vibration so that it's as high as it can go, so that in the future I will attract the right things. Because keeping in mind as well, whatever energy you're around at this time in your life or in the past is a reflection of your past energies, right? So it's not even something for you to beat yourself up on of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I messed up like this. But it's like past you may have energetically created this situation, but future you does have the power to attract only good things. And the more you're able to focus on the positive, the more you're able to take those lessons and just keep it moving and be like, okay, so it is what it is, and now we're on to the next, the better and the happier you're going to be, and the more positive outcomes you're going to attract, to the point where this type of energy will not even be able to get anywhere near you in the future. So know that, and just like give yourself that pass of like, yep, maybe this is negative, maybe this is something I somehow attracted to myself at one point in time, but also like I am so excited for this future I get to create. And I know as high as my vibration, I can't talk, as high as my vibration is right now, I'm not going to attract that same thing. And in the future, it's going to be so much better. Let me get into these cards for you. Pile number 2. So we want to know how should pile number 2 handle this difficult situation? Kinship, community, your group. Okay. Thought vibrations, resonant choices, signature signals, elementals, nature, spirits, the 4 elements, and Archangel Zadkiel, self-acceptance, compassion, forgiveness. So there is that element, like I said, of compassion that I'm picking up on, and like not beating yourself up. I really feel like that's something Spirit does not want you to do, is like get into this kind of like negative spiral about why is this happening, or I'm such an idiot, or I'm so upset that this has happened with me, or like it's my fault or anything, or even this person is doing this to me, and kind of being in that victim mindset. It's like just accepting that situation goes such a long way, and being like, whatever's happening, there's something in it for me to learn from. There's something in it for me to grow from. Like, I always think whenever I'm like frantically looking for something, whether it's like a remote or my keys or my phone, and I'm in that like, oh my God, I have to find it right now. Oh my God, where the heck is it? And I'm frantic. That's when I'll never find it. And isn't it so funny that whenever you're just like, okay, whatever, I just won't be on my phone, or I'll just go change the TV manually, or whatever. I guess I won't drive today. Maybe I'll take an Uber, or I'll just chill at home for a little bit more. That's when you find your keys. That's when you find your phone. That's when you find whatever you misplaced. And I feel like that's the same thing in life. The more we resist a situation, the more we're pushing against it, the more we are just mad at the universe for putting us in this, then we're really fighting that situation instead of accepting it, learning from it, folding from it. It's kind of like Bruce Lee, the famous martial artist and warrior. He said, be like water. And that was his advice for fighting. Which seems so funny to me. We think of a lot of like MMA fighters and boxers as like these alpha men, and their advice would be like, fight as hard, push as hard as you can. And if they were going to be like an element, I would think they would choose to be fire, or maybe earth or something, elements that kind of pack a punch, not water. That seems a lot less intimidating, but that's the power of water. And actually, if you go, speaking of road trips through the US, if you go to the Grand Canyon, you can really see the Grand Canyon was carved entirely out of water. And I swear that is one of the most spiritual places on the planet. Like, I really think most tourist spots, I'm always like, oh, it's overhyped. It's okay. I saw it in pictures and it kind of looked the same, but there's something about the Grand Canyon that really takes your breath away. And I think it's a very spiritually charged place for sure. But you really see how powerful water is, because the whole canyon, it's like thousands of feet deep. I mean, it's so massive, you can't even really comprehend it. And the whole Grand Canyon is carved out by water. That's the power of water. And it doesn't even look like it's doing anything in the moment. And that's the thing. Actually, when we just adjust ourselves, when you think about the element of water, it doesn't fight, it doesn't stay rigid. Its power in that it goes into the little nooks and crannies and crevices. It goes wherever it flows to. It doesn't fight it. It doesn't stay rigid. It doesn't try to destroy it or anything. It just flows. And that's its power. And that's why over time, water is able to like reshape entire mountains and huge continents and all those things. Water is so powerful as an element. Or water is able to like rot a whole apartment and you won't even notice, because it'll be molds inside the walls. There's so much power in water that seems deceptively kind of like, oh, it's not really doing anything, it's just chilling, it's just flowing, it's not pushing back. But that's actually the power there. And I feel like that's the message for you, is don't be fighting this situation and don't be upset about this situation. Accept where you're at, learn from it, grow from it, and then on to the next. You don't have to stay in this energy forever, and everything will pass. I'm hearing that song in my head, All Things Must Pass by George Harrison. Also thought vibrations. Again, that reminder, your thoughts are so powerful. Pile number 2. You guys may be master manifestors. You may be very spiritually potent with your thoughts. So make sure you're using them carefully and you're not just allowing yourself to go down any little rabbit hole of negativity or depression or spiraling out or thinking of all the worst things that could happen. And every time those kinds of thoughts pop up where it's like, oh my God, what if this happens and what if that happens and this could go wrong? That's when you counter it with like, but what if it goes right? And I know it's going to be great. And I know it's going to be amazing. And I know everything always magically works out for me. And I know I'm divinely supported in this. So yeah, I feel like that's really what Spirit wants you to do, is like work on your own thoughts and make sure that they are supporting the kind of future you want to create with this, instead of creating a future that's going to be negative or that's, not something you want, because your thoughts are very powerful, pile 2, and you are creating your future reality. With the elementals coming out, those are like nature spirits, like fairies and leprechauns and elves, and they're very playful. So again, I feel like there's that message for you, maybe of spending time in nature or just doing things that bring you joy, make you feel happy, make you feel playful. You know, maybe this is not a situation that you need to address it head on and like go in and do everything you can. I'm not saying you should ignore this situation. We did get the King of Swords. He's very logical, but he's definitely going to take action and kind of like face things head on. So I'm not saying you should ignore these situations, but I am saying you also need to understand that there's nothing good or there's no real benefit that's going to come out of stressing yourself on 10 about a situation that you may not have control over. You know, you have control over your life and your mood and other things like that. You really don't have control over other people's behavior or a lot of other factors. So work on the things you can control, keep your side of the street clean, so to speak, but you know, let the universe handle everything else, because with that Justice card, trust me, this karma is going to happen and it's going to happen hard. So you don't even need to be really lifting a finger, okay? Let's get into some of these cards for you. Pile number 2. What message do you have for pile 2 about how to handle this situation, Spirit? Let's get one more card. Okay, so you guys got narrow pathway, tread thoughtfully. Okay, this one is rainbow blessings. Blessings are showering your life. Passion and pleasure, savor your life. And you got valiant courage, take action with passion. So there's so many blessing cards coming out. Rainbow blessings, passion and pleasure. I really feel like this message for you is about staying super positive and really doing those things, those small things that bring you happiness. You got that card that says savor your life. So I really feel like this message is like, do something to pick yourself up, do something to make yourself feel more positive. Don't allow yourself to go into some kind of spiral or spend all your time at home ruminating about it. Make sure you are doing things to lift your spirits, keep yourself positive, and be very conscious and aware of your thoughts on this situation. Maybe you'll look back one day and this will seem like a complete blip on the radar, like, oh my gosh, who cares? Why was I stressing about that? I feel like karma is definitely going to happen. Karma is taking care of itself. And so the more happy, fulfilled, blissed out you can feel, the better you are going to be to alchemize this and take care of this situation. And I wouldn't even allow it to use your mental thought, energy, or anything like that, because your energy is so valuable, pal, too. And it's much better served on focusing on the things you do want to manifest and stepping towards your amazing future that's coming towards you, instead of ruminating about this situation, worrying about this situation. So that is what I have for you, pile number 2. I really hope that resonated. I would love to hear your reactions in the comments. I always love to hear what you guys think. And if you give this reading a thumbs up, hit the like button, subscribe, turn on notifications. That really helps the channel. Also, if you want to see more of my content, then be sure to head to my Patreon, where I post all my additional readings. There are over 100 exclusive readings you'll only find on Patreon, and you also get early and ad-free access to all my YouTube videos. They always get posted over there way early. I just posted readings all about your next relationship, as well as one about when your dreams are going to be happening and coming true and what that's going to look like. But there is so much content to choose from over on Patreon. And like I said, you get to be the first to watch all my YouTube videos, and they get posted over there way in advance. So if that sounds good to you, then head to the link underneath my timestamps in the comments and the description and join me on Patreon. Also, if you're interested in booking a private session with me, you can do that at my website, briarrosetarot.com. Whether you're looking for a quick half-hour reading, a full hour-length reading, whether you want it to be focused on tarot, astrology, channeling, a combination, you get to really customize your time with me, so it's the perfect session for you. If that sounds good, then head to my website, briarrosetarot.com. constitute.com and book a time slot with me. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I am sending you so much love and light, and I will see you again very, very soon with another reading. Take care, guys. Bye. Hey, pile 3, welcome to your reading. So you guys got this Stars in the Sky Limitless Possibility card. So this is a pretty positive card to get. This could bode well for the outcome. It could mean that there's a variety of different ways to handle this situation as well. So I want to pull some tarot, get more guidance. But overall, I do feel like this situation is giving me a positive vibe. Like it feels like things could resolve themselves pretty well for you. There could be more than one way for you to like win in this situation. So let's see what the cards say. Let's see what further guidance the tarot wants to give us. But what is pile number 3 supposed to do with this situation? How are they supposed to handle this difficult situation? Okay, so we got the Queen of Swords, the Three of Wands. Okay. The Ten of Wands and the Two of Swords. So right off the bat with the Three of Wands coming out, this actually makes a lot of sense combined with the Stars in the Sky card, because I feel like the Three of Wands is calling on you to maybe broaden your idea of how this situation can be handled. The Three of Wands generally shows someone who's like exploring, they're setting out on some kind of adventure, they're ready to set sail, so to speak. So it's like, it's that feeling that maybe, you know, I'm going to move, or I'm going to travel, or I'm going to change jobs. So if you've been feeling really stuck in this situation, this could be a message that, you know, depending on some other cards we get, that like, it's okay to be willing to change tactics entirely. Sometimes it's okay to avoid this situation, or, you know, it's almost giving me Jupiter, Pisces energy, Sagittarius energy, like that heavy energy where maybe you're just going to leave. Maybe you're not even going to fix the situation. You're just going to be like, okay, bye. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying to avoid it, because we do have the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords is very logical. The Queen of Swords is, you know, definitely Swords energy is where you dot your I's, cross your T's. You've got all the data. You've got all the facts. You've got all the figures. Like you have the receipts, you know, we're not slacking on that front. So I'm not saying just ignore this situation, but there is that question of like, maybe you could actually alchemize this situation by pivoting your energy and directing it towards something else, or leaving this situation behind even, or broadening your options. You know, it's like, I've heard a lot of entrepreneurs say something like what their biggest business advice is like, just always find someone who will say yes. And by that, they mean like one person says no, but another person will say yes, you know? And that's so true. Like I mentioned it before, but when I worked in retail, I was always amazed because I felt like my coworkers were always like beefing with random customers, and like they'd always be like, oh my God, here she comes. Oh, she's so annoying. Don't even make eye contact. Don't talk to her. And I'd be like, why? What did this lady do that's so awful? And they'd be like, oh, I don't know, like she always tries on a bunch of clothes and doesn't buy anything, or she asked us for a discount last time or something. And I was always like, okay, like who cares? You know what I mean? It really didn't bother me that much. And I was always like, sure, like I'll help them. And so I would get like good commission because of that. But that's the thing. That's my point, is like, if I talked to them, they would be so ingrained that like, no, this lady's awful, she's horrible. Meanwhile, it didn't bother me at all. And if that same lady came in and asked for a discount, I would have given it to them, because we were allowed to give discounts like whenever we wanted. If someone asked for a discount, we had the ability to say yes. And I guess a lot of my coworkers didn't like that. I loved it, and I was like, I would give them away to like basically anyone, because I was like, hey, why not? You know, the company says we can, and it makes this person happy. So do you want 20% off? But that's my point. Like one person's, oh my God, absolutely not, this is so wrong, is another person's, okay, sure, it doesn't even bother me. You know what I mean? And that's what's coming through maybe for some of you guys, is like, if one person's saying no, or if there's a situation which you're not being appreciated, you know, if there's and that's the thing, I always felt bad for those clients too, because sometimes like I felt like it would hurt my feelings to be treated that way in a store if like people were being really rude to me. And then I feel like you always question, like, I don't know, am I imagining this? Like maybe these people do like me and they're just like, I'm picking up on weird energy. And I was like, no, they're always talking ish in the back of the store about these random customers that aren't even doing anything bad, and it really used to bother me. But my point is exactly that, is like, so much of the time, if we feel unwelcome, or if we feel like we're getting a bad vibe, or if we feel like this just doesn't feel aligned, it's like, yeah, maybe it's not, and maybe it's time to leave. I kind of wish those customers would have just said, like, you know what, you guys are a bunch of losers, and like told them all off and never come back to the store and never spend their money. Like, I would feel bad for them, because I was like, they're coming in, they're getting talked about, they're getting these weird vibes directed at them. And yeah, it was just not something I appreciated. But my point is exactly that, is like, so much of the time, someone's reactions to you will have more to do with them than it does with you. I didn't ever feel like, they never told me, oh, what did that customer do? She spat on someone, or she like tried to punch someone, or she was, she did this crazy thing. It was always something so small, and I was always like, this is such an oversensitive thing to be offended about. But that's the thing. A lot of people's reactions to you will have something to do with them, will have something to do with what they expect, or their triggers, or their issues, or groups forming and them wanting to be a part of the group, whatever. The point is that if someone is not welcoming you in enthusiastically, that's also your lesson, and you can choose to take your energy somewhere where it's really welcomed in, somewhere where someone appreciates it, somewhere where someone is grateful and happy to have you around. So this could be your message to like pivot. Also with the 10 of Wands, if you felt like you've been working and breaking your back, and you have been putting in the work and it has not been appreciated, there's also that message to take your energy back and not do that, and not feel like you have to like do so much. Because again, those ladies would come in, and I always was like, this is wild, because they'd be nice to me. Most of the time, the girls that like they were talking about, the women that they didn't like, they weren't overly nice. These were not women with like the best social skills ever, who would be like talking to you and make you feel like they're your best friend, but they would be fine, like nothing rude, just like very direct, like, maybe, do you have this in purple, or I need this dress in a size 12 or something, nothing that bothered me. So much of the time, someone's reaction to you, or if they're not appreciating you, that isn't even necessarily a reflection of what you're doing. Like, I felt like these women were acting fine. They were getting a lot of pushback. They were getting a lot of resentment that I think had more to do with, like, honestly, the personal lives of everyone who was working in the store and what was going on in their life than it did with any kind of behavior. So my point is that sometimes you aren't even doing anything wrong, and you're still going to be called out. You're still going to be hated on. You could be doing everything. You could be doing something amazing. With the 10 of Wands, you guys could be putting in work, doing everything right, and you could still be misinterpreted. That doesn't mean you actually have a problem, and it's really important to keep that in mind. So how to handle this difficult situation? It may be like pivoting your energy. Stop giving it your mental energy. Maybe to a certain extent, stop caring what these people think. Like, don't even give it like, I would always think, why did these women even come back? Because some of them would spend a lot of money in the store. They were a little more demanding, but I was like, geez, if I was going to spend this kind of money at a store, I wouldn't be dropping it with a bunch of sales girls that like whisper about me in the back. You know what I mean? I would want to be spending it at a place where someone's grateful, someone's nice, someone's friendly, and they're cool with it if I have to ask for a different size or a different color or whatever, because that's our job. I was like, why are we here then? Also, I'm ADHD, so like the last thing I want to do, and we weren't allowed to be on our phone, so the last thing I want to do is hang out in a store and not have anything to do. I would much rather talk to customers. But yeah, anyway, the point is that so many of these weird reactions, it was like nothing to do with the customers, everything to do with the person behind it. And when you're in that space where someone's just being a weird hater, a lot of it is something on them. You can't even fix that energy. You can't even really alchemize it. You could be nice to them, you could be friendly to them, and it's probably still not going to change. So it could be just worth questioning, like, how do I move on? How do I find something new, more receptive, more fertile ground to grow whatever I'm trying to grow? Like I mentioned before, you could try to grow an evergreen in the middle of Arizona. It is not going to grow. And by the same token, you can try to grow a cactus in upstate New York or Vermont, and it is not going to grow. It's not going to last long, at least. Maybe if you plant it in the middle of July, it'll last for a couple months or something. But it is not going to last through the year, because, so many of those things are based on like being planted in the right place, having the right people who appreciate you. And you'll notice that major energetic shift, when you find someone that actually likes you for you, can appreciate you, can accept you, can receive you in the right way, like that's when you are going to feel that energetic alliance. That's when you are going to feel the resonance of being welcomed, to the resonance of being accepted, the resonance of like, this is a fertile ground for me. You know what I mean? So let's see what other cards. How should pile number 3 handle this difficult situation, Spirit? How should pile number 3 handle this difficult situation? What should they do about this situation? Okay, so we got the 3 of Pentacles, the 2 of Cups, the Devil card, and one more card to clarify. How should pile number 3 handle this difficult situation? The Magician. So it's really interesting. We have 2 cards about like collaborators and relationships, the 3 of Pentacles and the 2 of Cups. So there could be people that you could work with on this situation. There could be people who would be willing to give you some help. And this could be that message to take your energy back from places where you don't feel like you're getting that help, where you don't feel like the people appreciate you. You know, to me, the 2 of Cups is such an energy where we find ourselves in alignment. It's like when you meet that, I can remember one of my best friends meeting him a long time ago, and immediately we had a vibe. Immediately things just flowed. And I feel like so much of the time when you meet someone that's going to be important in your life, it's like you don't have to go through that awkward phase. You don't have to go through the weirdness of getting to know them. And by the same token, a lot of times I think we spend time trying to get someone to like us or appreciate us or buy what we're selling or like, please let me convince you. When a lot of times I think life is kind of about efficiently reading the energy and being like, is this person receptive or not? Because a lot of times it's about that person just being receptive. And no matter what you do, no matter, you could, please them or try to please them until you're blue in the face. But if their energy isn't aligned with you, if it's not an energetic match, they're never going to get you. They're never going to like you or accept you. I can think back to friendships I had where I felt like, oh, I have to prove myself to this person, or, I'm going to show them. They're going to really like me over time. I remember one time I was sitting with this friend that I had had for a couple years, and I always kind of got a little bit of a judgy, weird vibe from her. But then it was like, no, like we're in the same friend group. She's my friend. She was the one who was like wanting to hang out a lot. So I'm like, okay, cool. We've moved past whatever weird phase. And the start of the friendship also, this is like kind of tea, I guess, but was like a guy she had been talking to and she'd been seeing and hooking up with. And he and I met at a party, and he got my number and was like, oh, let me text you next time we have a party at our place and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, and not interested in this guy, but I gave him my number. Somehow she found out about it and confronted me through a friend. And this is the first way I met her. Like the friend was like, hey, by the way, I heard you've been talking to this guy, Benjamin. And I was like, who? Or whatever his name was. And she was like, yeah, my friend was like, she's like hooking up with him and they're kind of off and on, but like, you shouldn't talk to him anymore. And I was like, okay, like I didn't care. So I was like, well, I don't really talk to him. Like I gave him my number once, and I think he's texted me a couple times for parties, but that's it. But my point is that it's so funny because I got a weird vibe that first time. Like I thought, that's a little crazy and out of pocket that she would ask me not to talk to him, but whatever. Okay, I get being down bad for someone. And then it's so funny. 3 or 4 years later, like I thought, okay, we've worked past this. Now we're good friends. Now, she's someone that I really wouldn't consider a close friend, but now we're friends. And then she said to me something like, when I first met you, I thought you were such a witch. And it was just something about the way she said it, just something about the look in her eyes and like the way she said it, like kind of waiting to see my reaction. And I thought, I don't think you ever liked me. I don't think you like me now. I don't even think you're saying that as like, I thought you were such a witch. And like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad we moved past it. I think you're just saying it to be kind of hurtful. And I honestly still believe that. I truly believe she never liked me. She always held a grudge because this guy, I guess, wasn't into her and she was trying to get him to be her boyfriend or whatever. And she was resentful that he was talking to me. How would I know that? I don't know. But anyway, she was mad, and I don't think she ever moved past it. And I honestly think so much of the time, like people form their judgments of us within the first 5 minutes. And also so much of the time, like
we can't even change their opinion. We can try. I think I had, at that time when I decided, yeah, she never liked me. And like, I don't even really like her and I don't really want to be friends with her. That was like such a relief. And the only thing I regretted was that I didn't listen to my intuition earlier, that I had gotten a little bit of a weird vibe, that I had thought, well, that's a little out of pocket to ask. Like, I don't even know you. I don't know this guy either, but why are you like asking me to back off on this man? It doesn't even sound like you're dating him. I mean, I did it because I don't care and it wasn't like I was into him or anything. And sure, girl code. But at the time, I thought it was strange. And I thought her reactions to me when we met wasn't particularly friendly, but then it was all like smoothed over and now we're friends. And honestly, that energy never shifted, in my opinion. There was always a competitiveness, there was always a weirdness. And that's my point, is so much of the time, the best thing you can learn to do is kind of like trust your intuition. Don't trust the surface level. Don't trust the smiles or someone like pretending or like, well, they were weird that time, but then they were friendly again. Your intuition knows, your heart knows. And if you're willing to be honest with yourself, a lot of times you'll be like, yeah, I always got a weird vibe from that person. Or I always felt like whenever I would tell a joke and they'd laugh, it was just something strange about it. You know what I mean? Something, it didn't feel fully warm the way they were laughing at me. And I think that that is what spirit is letting you know, is like, if you've been feeling this way about some situation and maybe you're like, am I crazy or am I overthinking or like, no, maybe I'm just being too sensitive. No, you're not. And I think you're completely right about this. And again, this could be an energy about seeking people that you're in alignment with, seeking people that just really get you, seeking people that fully understand you. And the difference, the energetic difference when you find that friend that genuinely likes you and gets you versus that friend that's like faking it, pretending, going along with it because maybe other people like you or because they, I don't know, they're desperate, they want anyone to hang out with or whatever the case may be. The energetic difference when you're with someone you're fully aligned with versus someone that low-key doesn't like you is a million miles apart. And so don't even try to appease these people that aren't going to like you because they probably never will. There's nothing you can do to change that. There's nothing you can do to shift that. And it is what it is. So just accepting that and like moving on from it is the best thing you could possibly do. Yeah, I feel like for you guys as well, this could be about seeking out those relationships, learning something new. Even for some of you guys with the Three of Pentacles, it can indicate going back to school, going back to college, going to university, getting some kind of degree or education in something. But I do feel like there's an energy of a pivot with the Devil card as well. It could be about realizing your own worth, realizing that you're free from a situation. You don't have to tolerate it, like not feeling trapped. But with the Magician card coming out next to the Devil, realizing your own power, realizing like, I don't actually have to keep doing this. And that was the feeling I got when I decided that about that friend. I was like, because we had so many mutual friends in common that I didn't want to like, I always felt like, yeah, I should hang out with her and we should get along. And I hope she likes me because we have a lot of the same friends. And then when I realized that, I'm like, I do not have to hang out with this girl anymore at all. I don't have to pretend to like her. We're not even like a similar personality. And you know what? It was so freeing. It was such a great feeling to realize I don't have to tolerate this. I don't think she likes me, and I don't have to sit around for any of the passive aggressive BS anymore. And I just wished I had made that choice so much earlier because that was just a waste of time. So that's what I feel like you're getting, is this message that like you're free and you have more options and more choices than you even realize. Let's get into some more cards for you. Pile number 3. How should pile number 3 handle this difficult situation? Many masks, the authentic self. Okay. Galactic Mushroom, the Divine Matrix. Okay. And Repairing the Veil, Forgiveness. Let me get one more. The Wall, Obstacles. Okay. So yeah, I think for you guys, this is about stepping into your authentic self. And sometimes it's just about being honest with yourself about what you want. Sometimes we're too afraid to admit to ourselves what's going on. Like, I think I had felt a little weird about that friendship, almost like, yeah, I want her to like me. We have the same friends. We have a lot in common. And maybe I did overstep by talking to that guy. But looking back, I'm like, wait, I didn't even know him and I didn't know her. I had no idea they had anything together, which I don't think they were ever together. Why would I be embarrassed about that, right? And I think so much of the time we feel like, this sense of like,
it's not even we feel it consciously, but we unconsciously might block it out. We might unconsciously attach shame or attach a self-judgment. Like if my boss is mean to me and doesn't like me, then there's something wrong with me. Like I said, I felt bad for those girls who would come into the store that I worked at, because I always felt like, I wonder if they go home and they think, gosh, the girls at the store are always so mean and catty to me, and it feels like they're whispering, and did I say something? Did I do something? And I always wanted to tell them, like, oh my God, these women are crazy. Don't even worry about it. You know what I mean? Like, I have to deal with them day in, day out. Trust me, they're mad at like various customers all the time. It's okay. But I didn't, obviously I couldn't say that. And so much of the time we have this internal, like, we don't even want to tell ourselves that like this friend doesn't like me, because we're afraid of, what does that really mean? What does that say about me? Or this customer service person was kind of a jerk to me. And just allowing that, just being like, yeah, I don't think this person likes me. Oh, wow. And I don't care. And I'm going to stay in my own energy. And I'm not even going to let that get to me or bother me, is so freeing. So for you guys, this could be also about something you're mentally kind of blocking out. You don't want to see the situation as clearly. Maybe you're like hoping that it's going to resolve itself. So you're being a little delulu. Like you're kind of telling yourself like, it's going to be fine. Yeah, like my boss was kind of really mean and they said all this stuff about me, but it's okay. And, they didn't really mean it. And I think they like me deep down. Or like, yeah, this apartment, there's so much noise, I can never sleep. And they're doing construction. I'm in my building at 11 p.m. and, I haven't slept well in months, but, one day it's going to fix itself. One day the construction will end. And yeah, they kind of scammed me out of some rent and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, if you just admitted to yourself what was going on, if you just were honest and were like, okay, this is what's going on, and I'm just going to call it out, and I'm just going to be 100%. And this is the another thing, is like a lot of people are afraid to express anger. They don't want to be the bad guy. They don't want to be the Karen that like gets mad at the customer service person. They don't want to be the person that is the mean friend that like calls someone out. So instead they just kind of go into this like people pleasing mode, like hoping someone's going to like them, hoping the situation's going to change. This could also be this energy, like be honest with whatever is happening. Tell the truth, don't lie to yourself. Don't sugarcoat. Be as blunt. Sit down with yourself. Do a little meditation. I just like to sometimes, if I can feel when something's bothering me, because it's like that's when I might be like, I'm going to overeat a little, or I'm going to like stress eat, or I'm going to just be super stressed out and distracting myself and scrolling on TikTok endlessly. So one of the best things to do is just sit with yourself, find a quiet place to sit and just listen to whatever thoughts come up for you. You can also it's a great practice to do with a tarot deck, if you do have a tarot deck or an oracle deck that you use. And see what the cards come up, and then meditate on those, or just sit with yourself and your emotions and say, what am I feeling in my body? What is stressing me out? What is coming to my mind? Because a lot of times we also try to ignore those feelings. We try to ignore the situation. We try to just put a brave face on and just pretend it's not happening. And that is not the way to solve anything. Let's get into these cards for you. Pile number 3. How should pile 3 handle this difficult situation, Spirit? Okay. So you guys got journey guide, travel, change in location. I'm definitely getting that vibe. Beneath the surface, hidden truth, something unknown. Balance, centered energy, self-care. This one is wisdom of the Magi, mental clarity. And finally, talent guides, spirit mentors, and teachers. I really feel like there's so many cards here to me that really resonate with that mental clarity and just getting a hold on things. Like even this tightrope card, I feel like sometimes some of you guys have been walking a tightrope, trying to preserve everything, trying to get someone to like you, or trying to appease something, or trying to put on a brave face and pretend something isn't happening, or trying to just be like positive about something. And again, I just feel like sometimes the best thing, the most powerful thing you can do is just call a situation out, even for yourself, even telling yourself, like, okay, this is what's going on. And I'm finally going to admit it. I'm not going to lie anymore. I'm not going to pretend anymore. This is what's happening. Also, as well, again, maybe just getting a change in location, maybe getting a new perspective. Maybe if if what's stressing you out is a friend group, finding a new friend group. If what's stressing you out is like a workplace, finding a new job, sending your resume out. If you're hating your living situation, finding a new living situation and just changing. You do not have to tolerate situations that drain your energy or make you feel bad about yourself. You do not have to smile and pretend and win someone over and dance around like a clown trying to win them and get them to like you. You can choose to take your power back. And I feel like that's what Spirit is asking for you to do, is like, hey, if this situation is something where someone doesn't like you, someone doesn't get you, someone doesn't appreciate you, someone's stressing you out, you don't have to tolerate it. You are free and you are capable to do whatever you want, and you are capable to create your reality. So if something is a negative reality for you, on to the next. And it's 2025 and we don't have to tolerate any more BS. We can choose to have our dream life. So if that is not serving that, then it's time to go. Let me get some message cards for you. Pile number 3. What messages do we have for pile 3 about how to handle this difficult situation? Oh, got a few cards flying out. Okay. So we got unknown territory. I love this. You are exactly where you need to be. Transformation. A fresh new way of living emerges. Staying focused. Hold the course. And miracles, expect the wondrous to emerge. So yeah, I feel like for you, this could even be about like raising your standards. Like if you have been tolerating something, it's also worth questioning, why have I been? Like, why do I think this is an acceptable way for me to be treated? What about me thought, oh yeah, this is fine to be treated this way. This is okay with me. This fits my standards. And then being brave enough to move on, being brave enough to like expect something good to happen instead of thinking that like if you change everything's going to fall apart. That's how we stay trapped. It's funny, like the devil card that you guys got shows people chained to the devil, but the funny thing is the chains aren't connected to anything. They are completely free. They could take the chains off at any time and leave, but they are so convinced they have those chains on their wrists and the heavy chains behind them that are like connected, they think, and they just assume, wow, we're trapped, even though it's not actually connected to anything. And if they actually tried it out, they would realize that. So I feel like for you guys, this is sometimes about taking your power back and just being like, I don't have to tolerate this. Maybe you have way more options than you realize. Maybe it's like you have so many options, and if you actually just thought it through, you'd be like, oh my God, I'm free. I'm free as can be. I'm free as a bird. I can go wherever I want, do whatever I want. And even if this situation does have to change, transmute, shift, go through some kind of major tower moment or judgment card moment where there's a death and rebirth, that's sometimes the best thing that could happen anyway. It's like my favorite movie, Under the Tuscan Sun, how she gets a divorce. She thinks it's the end of the world, but then it like leads to her living in Italy. I think there's so much spiritual wisdom in that movie. I just love that movie. But anyway, yeah, it's like sometimes something that is the worst. I mean, you talk to a lot of divorced women and they will say, I'm so glad I got divorced. I just wish I'd done it earlier, And I think that's the thing, that sense of relief you get when you realize, yeah, I'm done with this situation. There's something so powerful about that. So yeah, how you can handle this difficult situation is maybe pivoting your energy and learning to direct it elsewhere, to somewhere where it's more appreciated. Learning that you're not crazy. What you're picking up on is not insane. And a lot of it is just realizing that and being like, okay, now what do I actually want? Do I want to keep picking away at this situation with an energy that's janky, with someone that probably doesn't like me, or some situation that's never going to be positive, and I can feel that? And that's maybe where it's making me crazy. Or do I want to move my energy to a situation where it's going to be appreciated, where it's going to be accepted, where it's going to be loved, and it's going to be reciprocated? That's what, maybe it's just changing your mental vision for what you can deserve and realizing you deserve to have a happy, beautiful, thriving life, not to be trudging along with some miserable situation, with something that's never going to shift,
and align in your favor. So that's what I'm getting for you, pile number 3. I really hope that resonates, guys. If it did, please let me know in the comments. I love hearing from you guys, and make sure to give this reading a thumbs up, hit the like button, subscribe, turn on notifications. That really helps the channel. And if you want to see more of my content, then be sure to head to my Patreon, where I post all my additional readings. There are over 100 exclusive readings you'll only find on Patreon, and you also get early and ad-free access to all my YouTube videos. I just posted a reading all about when you're going to be achieving your dreams and what that's going to look like, as well as one about your next relationship. But like I said, there's so much content over on Patreon to choose from, and then you also get to be the first to watch my YouTube videos, and they get posted over there way early. So if that sounds good to you, then head to my website, briarrosetarot.com, and join me on Patreon. Or excuse me, that's my website. That's not my Patreon. My Patreon is underneath the timestamps in the comments and the description. If you would like to go to my website, briarrosetarot.com, then you can get a private reading there. So you can get a tarot reading, an astrology session, a mediumship session, an open channeling session, or combine those all in one session. You can have it be pre-recorded or live with me. You can have it be shorter, 30 minutes, or longer for a full hour. And like I said, you can head to my website if you would like that. That's briarrosetarot.com, and the link for that is in my description. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm sending you so much love and light, and I will see you again very, very soon with another reading. Take care, guys. Bye. Hey, pile 4, welcome to your reading. So you guys got Dragon's Horde, protecting the future. So there could be some energy here about thinking long term and really making sure that the steps you're taking are serving your long-term future. If you have been doing things that maybe prioritize the short term or like feel good now, then maybe stop doing that and think really long term. And that maybe should be how you approach things. Like, think very carefully about how this situation will play out a year down the road, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, and maybe let that be the foundation for your strategy, where there may be a cause for caution, or just not doing something rash, not doing something crazy, not rushing in and just doing it to do something, but like kind of taking your time with it, kind of thinking it through, being careful. But let's get into some tarot and see what the tarot says as well for you. Pile number 4, we want to know, how should pile 4 handle this difficult situation? How should pile 4 handle this difficult situation? How should pile 4 handle this difficult situation? So we got the 6 of Cups, the 9 of Cups, the Wheel of Fortune, the King of Pentacles. Okay, so these are all very positive cards. I mean, yeah, it's really worth stating that this could really be a good omen for you guys, where this situation could alchemize and turn out very well for you. The 9 of Cups is incredibly happy. So is the 10 of Cups, the King of Pentacles, the Wheel of Fortune. I mean, this is like a real run of lucky cards. So this could also, and this is a very positive card, this could show you that this situation is going to work out in your favor in some way in the long term. And maybe there is that focus on thinking about the future, because sometimes it takes a while for a situation to alchemize. And I feel like with this future reference, I could be saying, hey, think long term. Maybe even with this situation right now, you think it sucks, you think it's really bad, you think it's awful, but long term, you're going to be like, okay, I'm so glad. Like, this all happened fantastically. This all worked out. This is great. And you may be really happy that you kind of like took your time with it. So let's get into some more cards. Pile number 4. How should pile 4 handle this difficult situation? Okay, we got the Devil card, the Queen of Cups. This one is the High Priestess. How should pile 4 handle this difficult situation? The Queen of Wands. So this is interesting because we actually have a lot of very emotional energies, very like kind of living in the moment energies with water and fire coming out. So I know I said don't just rush into action, but actually all the emotional energy I'm getting from this pile could be about like trusting your intuition, listening to your intuition, and maybe even like doing what you want. Like, this could be about paying attention to what your heart says, not necessarily thinking about things super rationally. So like,
if this situation is stressing you out, making you emotional in a really bad way, paying attention to that and not just discounting it because you're like, okay, I have to stick this out, or I have to just be like really disciplined about it. So this could be that message to like listen to your intuition, listen to where your heart is guiding you. We even have the Six of Cups. The Six of Cups can talk about needing to think about the past a little bit, think about things that made us happy in the past, thinking about, it's almost like an energy of coming home or meeting your first crush, or thinking about childhood, thinking about somewhere you lived that made you really happy. So this energy could also be about seeking out those things that bring you happiness. So finding happiness in your day-to-day life. And I will say, our thoughts, our feelings become things. So they become our reality. So if we're in a situation where we're really feeling unhappy, we can actually start changing and alchemizing that situation by seeking out things that will bring us joy. So even though it may sound silly to like spend the day with one of your besties and going shopping and doing all your favorite things, and that may seem like, oh my gosh, this isn't moving the needle, this isn't doing anything for it. Actually seeking out those things that bring us joy can help us alchemize the situation. There also could be a message of finding peace in this situation. So maybe this is a situation that may not require a lot of fighting or a lot of conflict, but can actually be better served by like talking it out, finding some peace, finding some harmony, maybe not even like fighting the situation, but just finding some kind of commonality, some kind of agreement. Sometimes we think like, I'm in this really tough situation, I have to fight, I have to battle, but sometimes you you get more flies with honey than vinegar, right? Or whatever. You get more of a response when you're being nice, when you're being kind, when you're being friendly. And sometimes we may think like, oh, but I don't want to back down, or that's being a pushover, but actually that can be the way that we reach the success. And it's like, at the end of the day, who cares how we get that success as long as we get it? So for you, this could be a situation where you're going to be called upon to have some diplomacy, have some kindness, have some charm. And like I said, really using your intuition. The High Priestess card, it's ruled by Cancer. It's not a very like loud or energetic energy. It's kind of more reserved. It's kind of more peaceful. It's kind of more relaxed. So I do feel like this is an energy where maybe you're not supposed to be like battling it out, fighting with everything you have. And maybe you're just supposed to be kind of relaxed and receptive and calm about everything. And really maybe even allowing yourself to find community, find friendship, find common ground with someone. And maybe that's the way to win this situation over, or even just finding peace within yourself. Sometimes we can be the one who's like ruminating about something, stressing about it, allowing our mind and our emotions to get all out of whack. And when we focus on like instead thinking of things that make us feel peaceful, thinking of things we can be grateful for, thinking of all the good things, then a lot of times that situation may not even be as bad as we think it is. It reminds me of like the fact that we have running water. So many of us don't even perceive that. Think of that, for 99% of humans throughout history have not had access to running water. We have access to running water at the drop of a hat. We can like turn on the tap and get hot water and cold water, and it's safe and it's good water. And most people throughout human history, they probably had to go to the well, they had to lug it in, they had to like warm it up over a fire if they wanted something hot. Maybe it wasn't clean water, and we're so lucky. And most of us don't even perceive that. Most of us aren't even aware of it. And if you actually take the time to look around you or to look at the situation, it may actually be better than you even think of, than you even realize. So this could be that call not to rush into action, not to like really start fighting or doing something about this situation, but just to take a more peaceful tactic. And I also am getting the message that like when it's time for you to go, or if the situation becomes urgent and you need to do something, you may get that download. With the High Priestess, you guys are very intuitive. So I know there's been times when I've been in a situation and maybe I'm frustrated with the situation, or I feel like things aren't moving ahead the way I wanted, and I can get so like in my head about it and so impatient and feel like, oh, this is so frustrating. But if I actually just allow myself to accept where I'm at and be like, okay, this is where I'm at right now. Let me enjoy this. Let me find peace in this moment, that's when that situation will often alchemize and change and shift in the right direction. And the more I can take that kind of practice of gratitude and every day take in the good around me, the better off I am in dealing with those situations and looking at them accurately. Because our mind can play tricks on us. Sometimes we could be in a perfectly fine situation, but we start thinking of all the negative, we start freaking out, we start panicking, we start feeling really stuck. You know, it's funny, we got the devil card. The devil card represents where we can feel stuck even when we're not. You know, it shows people tied up, chained up, and their chains are locked around their hands. But if you actually look at the chains, they're not tied to anything. So they're standing in front of the devil. They think, they're assuming like, oh, they put these chains on, it must be connected to the devil. But actually, they could walk away at any moment. And that's so true for so many situations. We start panicking, we start feeling stuck, and it gives us such anxiety, such a feeling of panic. We feel like the situation will never change. The reality is, in the Wheel of Fortune card talks about this, everything is constantly changing. Nothing will ever be the same. Nothing will ever be exactly how it is right now. So that's why a lot of times it's actually really important to focus on like processing all the good around us, paying attention to all the beauty around us. It's like, think about like the final days of summer, like August or whatever. Like at least where I'm from in DC, it gets pretty humid and kind of smoggy. Like the air feels heavy, and you can get into this mode of like, oh, I'm so sick of summer. I can't wait for winter, or I can't wait for fall. And gosh, this is just freaking awful. Like, it's so uncomfortable. It's so humid. But the reality is if you brought up that day in August, where the sun was out and you could go outside in a tank top and, you know, it was really nice and warm outside, you could go hike through the woods, whatever. If you gave someone an option when they're in the same place, they're in DC and it's freezing in the middle of January or February or December, and it's getting dark at like 5 p.m., and you told them like, hey, do you want to time travel to August and we could have one day where it's going to be like this temperature and it's going to be kind of, you know, you're going to be maybe sick of the sun and you're going to be like feeling like you're ready for fall. They'd be like, oh my God, yes. They'd appreciate it so much. But that's the thing, like the first day of summer, the first day of spring, the first randomly warm day in March, you're always like so grateful. You're heading outside in your like tank top. You're like so pleased that like it's finally warm again. But then we get used to that. Then we start expecting that. Then next thing we know, we're totally ungrateful for it. In fact, we start complaining about like, oh, it's too hot outside. Oh my God, I'm ready for the fall. Oh, the sun is out. I got a sunburn, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like it reminds me when I visited a friend of mine in LA, the first time I ever went to LA, I think I went in March. And so we were wearing, of course, like what we thought of LA before we spent time there. We were both, me and my friend went on this trip together, and we were wearing like shorts and our cute little summer tops. And we were like, oh my gosh, it's so warm here. It's so great here. And a friend of mine who lived in LA told me, she was like, well, everyone's going to know you're a tourist because everyone in LA at this type of weather, it was probably 65 degrees or something. She was like, this is like freezing by LA standards. Everyone else is wearing, like, look around, everyone's wearing jackets and stuff. And I was like, oh, yeah, a lot of people are wearing jackets. But I kind of thought she was exaggerating until I lived in LA. And then I was like, oh, yeah, you know, definitely 65 starts to feel cold to you once you're used to, your body is adjusted to that. And that's my point, is so much of the time you could have something amazing happening around you and you don't even realize it. So this could be a message about just being mindful of your mindset, of your psychology, of your emotions, and making sure that you're focusing on the good, that you're focusing on the positive, that you're not ignoring anything, or that you are, yeah, you're not ignoring all those positive blessings. And instead, you're kind of like taking the time out to be grateful, taking the time to list things in your life that you're happy for, and realizing that the situation is temporary. It isn't going to last forever. So knowing that, you'll probably be a little more grateful for it. That's why everyone who visits LA from like the East Coast is like, yes, oh my God, it's so beautiful, because they know they are going to be leaving in 5 days, right? And then everyone who lives in LA is like, it's kind of bad weather today. It was 60. So the point is that the more we can realize that like life is temporary, life is short, and this time, this era in our life is short. So take it in and make the most of it, the better off we're going to be. But let's get into some more cards for you guys. Pile number 4. Let's see what other energies are at play here? How should pile number 4 improve and take care of this situation? How should they handle this situation? Okay, so we got winter's dream, gestation period, garden of Venus, rest and renewal. So whenever we see these energies, that's an energy of rest. That's an energy of taking it easy. It's not an energy of exhausting ourselves or feeling like we have to work so hard. We have to push, push, push. It can be just expecting the best, expecting the situation will work itself out, expecting positivity. Also, winter's dream is, or the gestation period, it's about being patient. It's funny, I was making that metaphor about like when you're in winter on the East Coast and then you go to LA. Well, winter is really that time for us to pause, and from the outside looking in, it can look like nothing is happening. When you're in winter, the plants look dead. If you were an alien who came down to Earth, you'd probably think, oh my God, like New York in the middle of winter, nothing's alive. Wow, this is like some kind of wasteland. Everything died. All the plants are dead. There's no leaves on the trees. The flowers are dead. Wow, this place looks awful, if you didn't know about seasons. But of course and you start learning that like the deeper the winter, the bigger the spring and summer. I mentioned that like when I lived in LA. I loved LA, but I kind of got sick of the lack of seasons because to me, there's just nothing better than that feeling of like spring, summer happening, like this joy you get when you start seeing that green again, when it starts getting warm, the smell of it. And even like I feel like the collective energy, like people are just so excited for it to be summer. So when you go take a walk in like a park in the middle of spring or in the middle of summer, there's like people picnicking, there's people outside playing frisbee, there's like families playing, and I don't know, it just has a different vibe. Of course, people do that at parks in like California too. But it just has this feeling of like almost like a party because people are so excited. They're so happy that it's like spring and summer. And that's why like if you're into like seasonal produce, you get the best tomatoes on the like in like New Jersey and New York in summertime. You get like the vegetables and the fruit, a lot of time it tastes different, it tastes more intense. That's why like they'll only grow wines in certain areas, and a lot of those areas have strong seasons. Like the Pacific Northwest has really good wines, and it's because they have winter, they have a lot of rain, they have a lot of darkness, and that does something, and it changes something, and it helps alchemize. So that's what that metaphor is coming to my mind for you guys, that like when we're going through a period of winter in our life, it's nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing to worry about. It's nothing for us to freak out or be like, oh, I have to fix this. Like if you had a garden in the middle of Maine and you go outside in the middle of January and everything is dead, you wouldn't be like, oh my God, I have to change this. I messed everything up. Look, I was growing these cucumbers and now there's no cucumbers. In fact, there's nothing growing. You'd be like, yep, that's about right. It's January in Maine. Everything is going to be dead right now. But you know what? That's what is going to make it for an even better growing season in July. And what's going to make that soil so rich. And that's what's going to make those plants able to grow higher. Like when I moved back to the East Coast from LA, I moved back in like summer, and it was just amazing to me because it was like there was so much green, and I really was able to appreciate it. I was able to feel that energetic difference when I shifted into like the East Coast time zone and started seeing just the green, the level of green that happens in the summer. And you just don't get that on the West Coast in the winter. I mean, of course, there are shades of green, but not like that lush, overgrown, almost chaotic green. That's just like life happening in this profusion, just like almost like there's not enough room for all the plants to grow everywhere, and it's just all these shades of green. And I was able to really see it with like these fresh eyes and really appreciate it. And that's what I mean, is like you don't get that unless you have a heavy winter. You don't get to have all the flowers blooming and stuff when you live in the desert. It's really nice in the desert because it's warm all the time and it has its own beauty, but you're not going to get those flowers. You're not going to get those plants. It's not going to have the same growing potential. And so just know that if you're going through a winter, you could be being prepared for something so much better. And there may not be a need for you to take any action on this situation, but just for you to keep your mindset in the right place and like keep yourself focused on that long-term vision of like something is being prepared
for me. Something is being alchemized for me. I'm in my winter season right now, maybe, but that's preparing me for an even better spring and summer later. Let me get a couple more cards. Okay, that one flew out. What should pile number 4 do to alchemize and handle this situation? Closing door completion. Okay, let me move these over. And this one is Moon Maiden's New Beginnings. So maybe even welcoming in a new beginning, accepting if the situation is over or if it is time to just kind of take that pause and be like, okay, we're done here, done and dusted and on to the next. And then that's okay too. There could be an energy of going back to the past for something, like leaving your current situation to revisit some past energies. But with that closing door, this situation, it may already have been alchemized and taken care of. And all you have to do is focusing on, like I said, keeping your vibration high, keeping your mood high, staying positive, as well as, like I said, not stressing yourself out about this situation or allowing your mind to go crazy about it. Let's get into some of these cards though for pile number 4. So we want to know, how can pile 4 alchemize, or how should they handle this situation? How should pile 4 handle this situation? How should pile 4 handle this situation? We got Angels of the 7 Chakras, Power, Truth, Connections, Archangel Raguel, Justice, Harmony, Solutions, Prophets and Ancient Seers, Decisions, Predictive Guidance, and Currents of Emotion, Uncontrolled Feelings. So there's a lot of that water energy coming through again. Water really, is a very emotional energy, and there's a lot of power in water. There's a lot of power in our emotions. So making sure that you're keeping your emotions, in the right track, focused on the right direction. Your emotions are like changing your future. They're alchemizing. They're helping decide what happens to you next. So if you can keep yourself in that peaceful, happy, emotional place where you are excited, where you're expecting the best, where you know that things are going to work out for you, and you can focus on kind of your emotional health, your spiritual health, even being in touch with your body, your chakras, what feels off in your body, focusing sometimes on our own energy instead of trying to focus on changing anyone else's energy. It's like at the end of the day, all this focus on cups to me is saying that you can't control anyone else, but you can control your emotions. You can control how you react. You can control what you expect, what you accept, what you allow. Prophets and Ancient Seers card as well reminds me of the High Priestess. So this could really be about meditating more, touching into your psychic abilities, using tarot, using astrology, or channeling, or seeking guidance from someone who is skilled in those issues. But I feel like for you, this is really about listening to your own intuition and that own inner place of calm and peace, and maybe letting spirit tell you how to handle this situation. So even sitting down on your bed and just meditating, which sometimes people think, oh, well, to meditate, it's going to be this really complicated process and it's intimidating and I'm going to have to do this, this, and that. And the reality is meditating can be super, super easy. And all you have to do is just sit down in a place of peace and calm and just listen to what comes up, listen to what spirit tells you. And a lot of times you will be amazed that what comes through is usually just a sense of peace. It's very rare that I meditate and I get a download that's like, you have to do this right away. Most of the time, whenever I meditate, it's always that feeling of calm. It's always that feeling that everything is going to work out. Even if I get guidance about how to handle a situation or something I should do differently, it always is from that place that spirit knows everything is unfolding exactly how it's supposed to. We're all going through the lessons we signed up for on the other side. We're all changing and growing and transmuting, and that's a good thing. Also with Archangel Raguel, that shows the scales of justice. So there could be an element of those Akashic records, karma happening in this situation. And if that's the case, you may not even need to lift a finger. This situation could be worked through and alchemized on the other side without you having to do anything. Let me get into some guidance for you, pile number 4, about how you should handle this situation. How should pile 4 handle this situation, Spirit? So we got fogged in, go slow, take time, journey by moonlight, believe in magic, wandering path, enjoy the journey. How should pile number 4 handle this situation, this difficult situation in their life? So this one says, surrendering to the journey, release control. That's such a big one. And that definitely sums up the vibe I'm getting. A lot of times when we are stressing ourselves out, when we are panicking, freaking out, really nervous, when we keep thinking about all the negative outcomes and everything that could go wrong, and, you know, this is often, I'm really upset about that. It really is that we just want control. We kind of want to know everything is going to work out. We're nervous about where it's headed. We're nervous about making the right choice. And there is that reminder that, like, you can never make the wrong choice, especially if you're acting from that genuine high priestess energy, being in touch with your intuition, listening to your higher self. And sometimes, a situation could look bad in the meantime or cause us stress in the meantime. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have some kind of higher value to us, or that we didn't sign up for that. It reminds me of a quote I heard from Ina Garten and the Barefoot Contessa, and it's something her husband would always say. It's his favorite quote, which is like, you never know whether it's a good break or a bad break until later. And I think that's so true, because there's so many things that have happened in my life that I thought, oh, this is exactly what I want. This is perfect. Yes. And then later it's like, oh my God, that was actually awful. And I really wish that hadn't happened. Or on the other side, something that I thought was so negative and I was so upset about it. And then it aligned me with a series of events that was just exactly perfect for me, And so there's no point in even trying to scramble around and figure out and overthink, like, what's going to happen and how's it going to look? And oh my God, what if this goes wrong? And then this factor, and just existing in that place of trust. It's interesting because you got the Wheel of Fortune card, which is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Pisces energy. So Jupiter and Sag and Pisces energy is really about trusting the process and the flow of life. And they're the two very spiritual signs. Sagittarius is spiritual, but it's in fire, and Pisces is spiritual, but in water. And so it's so funny because kind of the two signs that represent spirituality in different ways, like probably the most signs that represent spirituality, those two are both ruled by Jupiter, which is that energy of endless trust in the universe and just knowing it's going to align and not freaking out. That's why Sagittarius rules the ninth house of long-term travel, because you have to have a lot of faith in yourself and the process to travel, or even to get on a plane, or, to go across the ocean. You have to have this kind of trust in the universe, right? And Pisces can be known for, like, oh my gosh, they didn't, fill out that form they were supposed to, or they didn't do this thing they needed to do. But Pisces tend to have this, like, unwavering trust in the universe and just going with the flow. And I'm the fish and I'm just going to flow with things. And there's so much power in that. There's so much power. That is like the ultimate fundamental spiritual lesson, is realizing we don't always have control. And sometimes we're put on this planet even to carry out certain missions that may be outside of us, And you may never know why you're in a certain situation or why that situation is happening for you until the very end, until everything plays out the way it's supposed to. And then it's like, oh, this is why I had to go through that. Oh, that's why that person had to leave my life. Or that's why that person had to screw me over. Or that's why I had to go through that hard thing. So I just feel like for you, there is that message that, like, knowing that, don't stress out about the small stuff. Don't allow yourself to get into a negative place. Start expecting the best. Start expecting all the blessings, all the happiness, all the joy, all the benevolence showered down upon you, and start just having fun in the meantime, focusing on the good, focusing on the things you can control, the little tiny joys you can seek out in life, the tiny moments of happiness and pleasure and excitement that you can seek out, and just start having some fun, maybe even taking in this time you're at it in your life. It may be a very special, very fleeting time. And you may look at it, back at it in the future and be like, wow, that was so special. Wow, I was so lucky. Wow. Oh my God. That was like a highlight for me. And you're living it right now and you don't even realize. So, yeah, that is the message I have for you, Pile 4. I really hope it resonated. If it does, I love to hear from you guys in the comments. I love when you tell me what you think. So, let me know your thoughts. Also, make sure to give this reading a thumbs up, hit the like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, hit the bell. That really helps the channel. And if you want to see more of my content, then be sure to head to my Patreon where I post all my additional readings. There are over 100 exclusive readings you'll only find on Patreon, and you also get early and ad-free access to all my YouTube videos. I just posted readings all about your next relationship, as well as one about what it's going to look like when you achieve your dreams and how that's going to happen, when it's going to happen. But there is so much content to choose from over on Patreon, so many exclusive readings, and then you also get to be, like I said, the first to watch my YouTube videos, and they go up way early over on Patreon. If that sounds good to you, then head to the link underneath the timestamps in the comments and the description and join me on Patreon. Also, if you're interested in booking a private session with me, you can do that at my website, briarrosetarot.com, whether you're looking for a quick half-hour reading, a full hour-length reading, whether you want it to be focusing on tarot, astrology, channeling, mediumship, a combination, whether you want it to be pre-recorded or live. You get to customize your session with me, so it's the perfect reading for you. If that sounds good, then head on over to my website, briarrosetarot.com, and the link for that is in my description. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I am sending you so much love and light, and I will see you again very, very soon with another reading. Take care, guys. Bye.